Fabrizio Romano has confirmed Manchester United's latest signing. Links to Cesc Fabregas are coming in as Manchester United are considering alternatives to Ruben Amorim. We will talk about what Ruben Amorim's biggest problem is, but a Man United problem. Is it Amorim's system? Is it Manchester United? Is it the toxicity of the club? Because Antony leaves us on loan and is amazing for Betis. Marcus Rashford has left us on loan and is amazing for Barcelona. Hojlund has left us and already scored more goals in his last 5 games than he did in his last 35 games at Manchester United. And the annoying thing is, we're not going to get any money for Rashford. We're going to get about 20 odd million for him. We're going to get hopefully a decent fee for Hojlund, but we couldn't even get permanent deals for these guys. These are players that we've loaned out that are doing so well. Are we the problem? Now, don't get me wrong. I want Rashford to do well. I want Hojlund to do well. I want all our players when they leave to do well, unless they leave for rivals, Garnacho. But it is crap as a Man United fan to see that we take good players in and make them crap, and then they leave and they're good again. And, some of it comes down to Amorim's system not maximising our players. Some of it comes down to we need this player to save us and the pressure. But what is the problem? Well, that's what we're going to talk about. Rasmus Hojlund scored 3 goals in his final 35 appearances in all competitions for Manchester United. He now has 3 goals and 5 appearances for Napoli. I'm seriously tired. All of a sudden, Hojlund's got a bit of confidence because there's less pressure on him in Napoli, and he's got a bit of service, and he's a better player. Who would have guessed? With Hojlund in his first season, we saw it. We all saw it in Hojlund's first season. Hojlund in the Champions League was getting 3 goals in his first 2 Champions League games for Manchester United, which he's just done for Napoli. So I'm just going to say this now. Hojlund for Napoli is the same Hojlund we saw in his first season at Manchester United, where he's doing well in the Champions League. He's still a bit raw and a bit rough around the edges, but if you give him chances and he grows in confidence, he will score goals. We are seeing the same Rasmus Hojlund we saw in our first season at Napoli, maybe a little bit better, obviously because he's at Napoli and he's got more service and all that. He started his Man United career. I know he didn't get many goals in the Premier League, but he started his Man United career very well in the Champions League, then went and scored in 7 games in a row. He showed glimpses in his first season. It was Rasmus Hojlund's second season where it's atrocious under Ten Hag, but got 10 times worse under Ruben Amorim because Ruben Amorim's system just did not provide him any service. It's not providing Cesc any service. It's almost as if Hojlund wasn't the problem. The system not providing the striker service was the problem. Like I said in the summer, I said get a midfielder over a striker and improve the general play and the creativity and then get a striker. I said I would rather keep Hojlund for another year and sign Carlos Baleba than go and get Cesc. Now, don't get me wrong, I like Cesc. I think he's going to be an upgrade on Hojlund. But we're not giving Cesc the service because our midfield is not right. Now, look, Hojlund scoring 3 goals in first 5 appearances. Hojlund scoring in the Champions League. I expected that. I expected that because we saw it in his first season. We know what he's capable of. He's raw. He's not, there's still elements of his game he needs to improve. But if you give him confidence and you give him service, he will do well. And look, I want Hojlund to do well because I want the money for him. One player I got slandered for protecting was Rashford. Now, when I was protecting Rashford, I was protecting him because I felt that he was getting abused online. I think there was valid criticism of Rashford. There was valid criticism of work rate and attitude of Rashford. But I then felt like Rashford, then it just felt over the top with Rashford, and I felt like Rashford was just getting hated on and blamed for everything. I felt that whenever Manchester United lost, Rashford could have been the second best player on the pitch, and I could name 3 players that could have been atrocious, but the fan base would have gone in on Rashford. I felt that he was very, very scapegoated, I'm going to be honest. So I got a lot of stick for backing Rashford last season, because I said I think he's a good player. I think if he leaves us, we'll realise what a good player he is, and I don't think selling Rashford is going to solve any issues. And I was told I was blah, 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 player FC. I'm not player FC. Rashford, if he did this and he did that and he wasn't committed in training, then he has to go because attitude is just as important as ability. But where I was protecting Rashford last season was because I knew he had the ability. I said, if you can play Rashford into some confidence, he's our best attacker. He started 2 games under Amorim in the Premier League, Marcus Rashford, and scored 3 goals, and then Amorim booted him out. Rashford probably had to go for reasons that it wasn't just working at Man United. His head was gone and all of that. But I felt like everyone tried to make out he was this awful player and they couldn't understand why Barcelona went in for him. And I protected Rashford because I knew he was a good player and I knew that we weren't getting the best out of him. And I felt that Man United were the problem. And I got loads of stick for protecting Rashford. But I didn't like what went down with Rashford and Amorim, and I didn't like Amorim's treatment of Rashford. And People didn't like what I had to say at the time, but Marcus Rashford has now got 7 goal contributions for Barcelona. That's more than Yamal, that's more than Rafinha. He's been fantastic in the Champions League. And the way Rashford's being used by Barcelona is brilliant, as Darnish said, because he's being confident, because he isn't being looked at as the saviour or the problem. And that's the problem we had with Rashford. He got 30 goals in Ten Hag's first season. He was the saviour. He got 30 goal contributions in, I think, Ollie's second season. He got like 20 plus goal contributions in Ollie's third season. Him and Bruno were looked at as the saviours. And then the minute he wasn't performing well, he was the problem. Rashford was not the problem. I will tell you this now. De Gea was not the problem. McTominay was not the problem. Rashford was not the problem. This fan base now think Bruno is the problem. Bruno is not the problem. It is how, it's the club in general. It's not playing our best players in their best positions to their strength, creating an environment where there's an immense amount of pressure, where they're blamed for everything. They're not the problem. And you're under this microscope at Man United where you're going to get criticism more than anything else. But I've always said it with Rashford. I don't think he was the problem he was made out to be. He's assisting a goal against Champions League for Barcelona, He scored a brace against Newcastle. Man United have picked up 20 points from 21 games since Rashford left. And half our fan base said that Rashford's the problem, Rashford's holding us back. If we sell Rashford and Bruno, we'll be back. Half our fan base generally believe that we sold Rashford and Bruno, we'd be better off. And some people still believe it. We're not. We're not better off without McTominay. We're not better off without Fred. We're not better off without De Gea. We're not better off without Ronaldo. We're not better off without Rashford. And we won't be better off without Bruno. Rashford, if he had attitude issues, if he was not doing this in training, if he was late for training, he had to go. He had to go for... I'm not saying that it was wrong to sell Rashford. He had to go because there was attitude issues there. He'd been there under 5 managers. But what I was saying, and I always said this, is Rashford is so much better than our fan base gave him credit for. And people didn't like me for saying that, but I always believed in his ability. Now, anyway, we could talk about Rashford, we could talk about Hojlund, we could talk about every Man United player that's leaving and doing well. But the most important thing is they're doing well, and we're going to get permanent deals for them, and we're going to get money to reinvest, hopefully, into the midfield this summer. Now, talking of midfield, Manchester United have already made their first midfield signing. Manchester United have sealed and signed the deal to bring in 17-year-old Colombian talent Cristiano Rosocco, $1 million transfer fee, which is about $700k from Fortaleza, in a valid deal from summer 2026. United lawyers approved the contracts, So Manchester United have signed a new 17-year-old midfielder. We've got Sekou Kone, we're looking at a few other young midfielders, but hopefully there will be midfielders in the first team like Baleba and Wharton, or even an Elliot Anderson next season that will control the midfield and create a stable midfield for these players to learn from and eventually be moulded into if they're at the right level. Now, talking of midfield, Cesc Fabregas is very good at using midfield when he plays football. Xavi is good at using midfield when he plays football. Carrick uses midfield quite well when he plays football. Maybe Manchester United want a manager that's actually going to acknowledge the midfield. Manchester United are considering Cesc Fabregas as a replacement for Amorim. They added him on the shortlist. Fabregas is admired for his modern style of play and his own respect for developing young players. I like Fabregas. I think he's a good manager, but I think Manchester United right now is too big of a step for him. I think he's young. I think he's learning. I think he needs to go to a bigger club before going to Manchester United, but I think he's a really good up-and-coming manager. I want someone that is a little bit more experienced coming to Manchester United, maybe a little bit of Prem experience, but what I want more than anything for the next Manchester United manager is a manager that did what Arne Slot did in his first season, where he just looks at the players he has and tries to get the best out of the players he has, rather than sticking to a system that doesn't get the best out of the players he has. That's what I want from the next manager. And look, I saw this tweet from H that he retweeted the other day from July 2nd, and this is what I'm talking about. I'm not being pessimistic. I'm struggling to make 11s with our best player involved in their best zones using Amorim's shape. I hope I'm proved wrong, but there's a lot more questions than answers. Outside of Cunha, left 10, which makes a lot of sense, and Mbumo in right 10, where does Bruno go? Okay, deeper with who? Agate, Casemiro, no Maino, no ball-playing midfielder. It's hard. And as H was saying in the summer, and I agree with him, when you look at Amorim's system, it doesn't get the best out of any players we have, which means it's going to need another transfer and another transfer and another transfer window. But he's not done enough to say, you should. We can give you this transfer window and that transfer window because it's bad. I want a manager to come in that's going to get the best out of our players, because we all knew from Hojlund's first season he's not as bad as he was in his second season. He got 10 times worse under Amorim. We all know what Rashford can do. He's inconsistent, and I'm not going to blame Amorim for that because he's been inconsistent under other managers. But we know we had good players in Rashford, and Hojlund was all right. Bruno was a good player. Maino was a good player. And we'll do this thing where some of the fan base is turning on Maino and thinking he's bad, but Maino will go, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, Maino's in the Ballon d'Or rankings, and we'll be saying, well, we sold Maino. We need a manager that's going to look at the good players we have, because we actually do have a lot more good players than I think we think, and maximise Yoro, Mazraoui, Maino, Ahmed, and Bumo, Cunha, Bruno. They're all good players. So that's all I'm saying. Thank you for watching. Bye.